to a 131-119 victory and snapped the Lakers' 6-game winning streak. Luka Doncic, playing in his second game with the Lakers, had 16 points and 4 assists. The Lakers appeared to have the All-Star break on their minds. They missed 13 free throws. The Clippers got a strong game from Kawhi Leonard in their 128-114 win over Memphis. 25 points, 4 assists, and 3 steals in a season-high 34 minutes for Kawhi. The game of the year so far in women's college basketball has finally arrived. A lot of eyes around the country will be watching number 1 UCLA take on number 6 USC tonight at the Galen Center. More on the UCLA-USC showdown this afternoon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. For information on fire recovery resources, recovery hubs, and available services, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 countywide. Aid distribution locations, repopulation updates, and safety rules are constantly changing. Visit the LA City and LA County websites for the latest. If you'd like to sign up for the county's free debris removal, fill out a right of entry form, or get a list of disaster recovery centers that are still active, please visit recovery.lacounty.gov or call the debris hotline at 844-347-3332. If you're vulnerable to mudslides with rain in the forecast, free sandbags are being offered. Go to lacounty.pw/sandbags to find out where to get them. Businesses who have lost their facilities due to the fires can use a regional online source to get free or discounted locations. Whether you're interested in donating or finding space, you can visit the business-to-business Space Share portal at spaceshare.lacounty.gov. Additional LA County small business support and programs can be found at opportunity.lacounty.gov. Praying, advocating, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. 'Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything.
I wish I could take that attitude. I wish I could just kick my feet up and not do anything today, but there is so much breaking news domestically and internationally that that's not an option for me today. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday, maybe never, but not today. There is breaking news at this hour. We mentioned this moments ago, and before I get to our guest in this hour, let me just do this first. We were talking in the first hour of our program today about being essentially roughly 48 hours away from these bombs raining down again in Gaza if Hamas did not release these hostages, or I should say continue releasing hostages. They've released many already, as Israel has demanded. Again, there's a whole backstory to that, which I don't have time to get into right now, but we, again, are about 48 hours away from this war resuming at 12 noon on Saturday, this deadline that Bibi and Donald set, Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump. And literally moments ago, the New York Times broke a story. Headline, Hamas says it is ready to resume hostage releases. The group said that mediators were working to remove obstacles and close gaps after the ceasefire deal with Israel hit a roadblock. Israel at this hour has yet to comment. We are told at this hour. Obviously, I'm in syndication. We heard at different times in different cities, but at this hour, Israel has not commented on this story and other statements by Hamas, but Hamas has said that they were told that Israel was committed to the deal. Again, at this moment, Israel has not commented on that. If I get information about that in the next 2 hours, I will bring that to you. But at least according to this story, if this holds, and who knows what happens in the next 48 hours, but if this story is true, and again, if it holds, perhaps we won't see more death and destruction on Saturday at 12 noon. So that's what I know at this hour. Again, if I get more in the next 2 hours, I will bring it to you. That said, in this hour, I am delighted to have on this program Indiana University professor of law and former SEIU SEC insider, Alvin Velasquez, to talk about the future of work and modern labor in this country, considering the advent of AI and robotics. And so the labor force, as we know it in this country, is going to change dramatically in the years to come. And that is going to impact a whole lot of folk listening to me right now, black and brown people in particular. Others as well, of course, but we are going to be impacted, and we need to wrap our brain around what this looks like into the future with AI and robotics replacing many of the jobs that you are perhaps doing right now, even as you listen to me. Before I get to Alvin Velasquez, and by the way, he may or may not know this, I'm an Indiana University alum, so I'm always delighted to welcome IU guests on this program. My mama and family are listening to this program right now in Indiana, where I'm from and where my family resides. So go Hoosiers. Let me just say that for starters. Let me now play some sound from Bernie Sanders. And once you hear this, it's pretty self-explanatory. Once we hear the sound, we'll jump right into this conversation with Alvin Velasquez. All right, Miles, give me Bernie Sanders.
This morning, we are going to be talking about an issue that is very rarely discussed in the halls of Congress or the Senate, and that is the need to reduce the standard work week in the United States. In fact, the last time, as we understand it, the Senate held a hearing on this subject was in the year 1955. So I think maybe the time is now to renew that discussion. Despite massive growth in technology and worker productivity, millions of workers in our country are working longer hours for lower wages. As a result of the extraordinary technological transformations that we have seen in recent years, American workers are now over 400% more productive than they were in the 1940s. While CEOs today are making 350 times as much as their average employees, workers throughout the country are seeing their family life fall apart as they are forced to spend more and more time at work. At a moment in history when artificial intelligence and robotics, and I hope we all understand that the jobs that people have today ain't going to be there in many cases in 15 years. Our economy is going to be transformed through artificial intelligence and robotics. The question that we are asking today is a pretty simple question. Do we continue the trend that technology only benefits the people on top, or do we demand that these transformational changes benefit working people? And one of the benefits must be a lower work week.
When Senator Bernie Sanders' stature tells you in a sentence using the word ain't, that these jobs ain't going to be there a few years from now, you got to take him seriously, and we will take the comments of Bernie Sanders seriously when we come forward. I want to give Professor Velasquez, of course, initially a chance to respond to what he heard Bernie Sanders say as we work our way into this conversation about what the job market, what the labor market is going to look like just a few years from now with the advent of AI and these robotics. I can tell you one thing. You heard Bernie Sanders say a moment ago that the American worker is 400% more productive now than we were in 1955. Elon Musk doesn't see it that way. I digress on that for now. We'll make it into some of that as well. Going to be a great hour here on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
This is an ad by BetterHelp Online Therapy. When it comes to relationships, we often hear about the red flags we should avoid, but it's just as important to focus on the green flags. Think about how you want a relationship to feel, one where your boundaries are respected and you're encouraged to be your best self. If you're not sure what that looks like, therapy can help you identify those qualities so you can embody the green flag energy yourself and find it in others. Because whether you're dating, married, or building a friendship, it's time to form relationships that love you back. BetterHelp connects you to a diverse network of over 30,000 therapists worldwide with expertise in a wide range of issues, from depression and anxiety to work and relationships. It's 100% online and sign up only takes a few minutes. Find your green flag energy with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/abcradio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/abcradio.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
I have a dream today.
The road to freedom wasn't paved with just big moments. It was built day to day, step by step, voice by voice. This February, experience Black History Month through the stories that shape Los Angeles and beyond. KBLA Talk 1580, where Black history lives.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
I'll trust water bottles and a flashlight to save the day, but I'll be proved wrong.
With a tornado approaching, I'll realize that I like a wheelchair-accessible shelter.
When the floodwaters rise, I'll be up in the attic with 20 cans of beans. It's a recipe for disaster.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Alvin Velasquez, IU professor of law, and delighted to have him on this program as we commence this conversation about what the labor movement, what the labor force will look like in the months and years to come. Mr. Velasquez, how are you, sir?
I am excited to be on this show, Tavis. Greetings from Bayer Hall on the Bloomington campus.
Yes. I know Bayer Hall well. Been there any number of times over the course of my 4 years at Indiana University. I remember it well, and I'm honored to have you on this program. Let me jump right in. I want to just give you a few moments here. We have an hour, so we got time. You don't have to talk in sound bites here, not on this program at least. So I played that Bernie Sanders clip because I wanted to frame this conversation in the right way. So take it anywhere you want to take it. When you heard Bernie Sanders, what did you hear?
I heard three things. I heard prescience, in the sense that Bernie Sanders is right. AI is transforming the workforce, and it's going to have a lot of effects on the workplace and also workers. Mm-hmm. The second thing about Bernie Sanders' comment that kind of caught my attention is that the trends in inequality will continue unless we take steps to counter-arrest that. And then the third thing that I hear from Bernie Sanders' statement is that right now we're not, it's important to have this show because we're not really having that conversation about what is the workplace going to look like? Mm-hmm. And then from my perspective as a labor professor, what do unions do? How can unions be reimagined to be the people who have a seat at the table and are part of the governance structure of how we deal with AI going forward?
That frames this entire hour. That's all I need to hear. So I can go from there. Let me start with what you started with, that AI and robotics will change the workplace and workers as we know it. I heard that distinction, the workplace and workers. Give me more.
Sure. So as far as the workplace goes, there's a couple of trends that we need to look at. The first is we've looked at and seen a lot of discussion about how AI discriminates, right, and has certain types of biases against people of certain races, certain pigmentation, and also certain language patterns. Mm-hmm. However, there's also discrimination that we haven't talked about, and that specific discrimination is against people, for example, who are interested in either organizing a workplace or seeking to change the workplace for more just and more equitable outcomes. AI, as it stands right now, and is programmed, I would argue, has a way of kind of discriminating against people who might cause trouble in the workplace. And the reason that's important is because AI is being used right now to interview people using facial recognition technology. AI is being used to make human resource decisions. And it's also being used to replace people. So it has like two effects, right? On the one hand, it's being used to tell people what to do, telling people, others, what people to bring onto the company, and then dictating the flow of work, as well as taking away the jobs. So it has it has two certain types of effects that I frankly don't think that we as a society have really been talking about.
Tell me more then, you're taking me right where I want to go. Tell me more then about your second point, these trends in inequality and how that may be exacerbated by AI and robotics.
Yeah, so there's the way I see it, it's twofold. There's a great quote I go back to, specifically I have an article on Christianity and AI, and it's that the whole feedback process for AI learning right now has a liberal, and I'm quoting another scholar here, liberal pro-capitalist worldview as the AI learns to avoid making mistakes that would attract controversy to its creators, who are generally liberal Western capitalists. Now, the reason I focus on that statement is because if we look at capitalism as it is now, it's creating a lot of the type of inequities in the workplace that at least people who care about social justice concerns in the workforce, like myself, are saying, look, this is going to exacerbate income inequality. And this is also, and income inequality has a direct effect on the nature of democracy, just having listened to your show a little bit earlier today. But additionally, AI and its effect on the workplace means that it takes intellectual, I think what's different here is it'll take intellectual work out of the workforce and commodify it. It's, for example, why in my labor law classroom, I have my students use AI to bargain with each other. And it's a very fascinating exercise. I had them do the dock worker strike, and I had them literally use artificial intelligence to negotiate with the other side's use of artificial intelligence to help figure out how to resolve the use of automation at the ports.
And now you got me really fascinated. Tell me more about the takeaway. What was the students' takeaway from having to use AI for those negotiations? First, you're a great professor. That's a great assignment. I love the idea. What were their takeaways?
Thanks. So I think there's a couple of takeaways from it. The first, so I'll give you the students first, and then I'll give you mine that I had supplemented. Right. So from the students' perspective, they saw that it was great at ideating, meaning that it was great at providing like bargaining ideas. It was great at saying, hey, you should probably present to the other side this set of proposals and see if they bite. And so in that way, it's a great brainstorming partner, okay? But because they were using generalized AIs and not, let's say, like a labor-specifically trained AI, there were like little gaps and holes in the assessment. So, and this is my part coming in.
Right.
What I noticed, right, is, for example, the students would try to push it to take a strike action. And it would say, and a term that we use for strike or for boycotts is economic weapons, using economic weapons, boycotts, that kind of thing. And the guardrails would immediately go up on the AI and say, no, you do not want to use economic weapons. You don't want to use economic weapons.
Okay, pause for a second. See, this is the scary part of these algorithms, right? What would, before you go forward, just pause for a second. What was your takeaway? I know how it just hit me when you told me that. What was your takeaway from the algorithm telling them, no, you don't want to strike?
Well, it's exactly what I was just commenting earlier. It has a certain kind of pro-capitalist logic, or at least one understanding of capitalism.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And its logic.
Yeah. And that should not be surprising, given that the capitalists built the algorithm. They designed it, right?
That's right. And so that's the part that was really fascinating. And the other thing about it is that, any labor organizer who is planning a strike will count the cost. How many people in this shop, let's say if 100 people, are going to walk out?
Right.
Because a strike with 30 people out of 100 walking out looks very different than a strike where 99 people walk out
Right.
and hold hands in solidarity. And the AI completely missed that.
Wow.
Yeah. Like it was not very good at like what I would call recognizing inequality, power dynamics, and how those power dynamics exacerbate inequality, or at least not in the context of bargaining a contract. I'm sure if you prompt it differently, you'd get a different response. But in that exercise, there were a lot of things that I, as a former labor attorney, right, and now professor, looked at and said, this is definitely pushing toward an outcome.
Yeah, there's no question. It's pushing.
I got one more example, but I'll step back.
No, it's definitely pushing toward an outcome. And again, none of us would be surprised, but these things are fascinating to hear. That when this professor, Alvin Velasquez, gave his students this assignment to negotiate this strike, AI saying, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to use economic weapons. You don't want to strike. Well, again, no surprise given who created it, but that's the kind of bias that we know already is built into these systems, and that's in part what Bernie Sanders was discussing and raising in his comments about the future of the workforce and the worker in this country, and how AI is going to put up on us in a variety of ways. I stand down for now. Give me the other example you want to give me, and I'll press forward from there.
Oh, of course. So I think the other example is that if it's for people who study labor law and picket line misconduct, there's a lot of, let's say, salty language and stuff that happens on the picket line because emotions are really high. And what was fascinating is that the AI would instruct the students, in order to have a successful negotiation, you must be kind to each other and be pleasant to each other. And it would have kind of this de-escalating trend. Now, of course, in a professional workplace, that's to be expected, right? Like we should be able to sit across the table from each other and try to come to an agreement. But what I found fascinating is the day before, I had literally just covered these strike misconduct cases and how labor law generally permits a lot more, I would say rough behavior, understanding that emotions are very high. So it's just kind of interesting to see that the AI had this tendency to say, instead of agitate, to say, like, let's calm everybody down, let's get everybody to the table. And it made no mention of any of the law that I just mentioned.
Wow.
Even though it's very well established in the books.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I'm a proud graduate, and for that matter, a recipient of an honorary doctorate degree from my alma mater, Indiana University. So I'm very proud of that. But my family...
Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers, yeah. My family is still in Indiana. They're listening to me right now in Indiana, and the audience has heard me say this before. A good number of my 7 brothers work work for Chrysler, a union plant essentially in Kokomo, Indiana, where I'm from. So they're listening to me right now, either at home or at work, or headed to work, or coming home from work, from this Chrysler plant in it's the same plant at which the leader of the UAW, Shawn Fain, used to work. So Shawn Fain worked at this same plant before he became head of UAW that my brothers work at right now. I raise that because you suggested earlier that the advent of AI and robotics and the way it's going to change the workplace and workers means that unions have to reimagine the future. Tell me more about how they go about doing that, or what they ought to be thinking about at least.
Yeah. So actually, I was going to say this is something I wrote about in a paper called the union's role in artificial governance and regulation. And if you look at a lot of the discussion right now, labor law kind of sets up unions to say, look, the decisions about AI, how to use AI, how to implement it, what data to feed it, right, so that it can learn, is decided by management. And what the union's role right now is just to say, hey, you can take the crumbs from the table. Like if you look, for example, at the SAG strike, that was significant because SAG and the Writers Guild took current labor law as far as it could go in terms of what they negotiated. My proposal, though, is, and actually I kind of engaged with Project 2025 on this in my paper. I said, look, if you're serious about enforcing AI safety, and not only that, but also protecting workers at the same time, then unions should have a co-determination kind of role in terms of how AI gets deployed at a plant and for what purpose. And instead of having the union be in a place where it's reactive, there's some simple changes that can be done to labor law that would make it so that if you give them a chance to bargain, the ability to bargain over it, they can be kind of both a regulatory enforcement mechanism or like agent to ensure that AI is used safely, but also in order to ensure that some of the benefits that are reaped from workers' knowledge developed over hundreds of years inures to the benefit of the people who put in that intelligence.
So to that point, I would say plausible but not persuasive. Plausible but not persuasive. And I only say that because I can't imagine why the big bosses, why the oligarchs, why the employers would allow the unions to have that kind of say-so. If AI and robotics can save them money, they don't care about safety or anything else. Why would they allow that as a bargaining chip on the union side?
Right, yeah. So here's how I look at it.
Right.
If you look, for example, at how the European Union is dealing with AI, they are focused on ensuring safety and having the government do it. If you look here actually, I'll tell you, I provided some testimony to a hearing that Chuck Schumer put together, a bipartisan hearing. Actually, Senator Todd Young was one of the sponsors of that hearing as well from Indiana.
Sure.
And what ended up happening is I said, look, you guys are trying to figure out a way to manage AI and also save money from the federal government. And we see right now, for example, Trump having a very anti-regulatory approach. I was like, the best way to ensure AI safety and do it at a minimal cost to the federal government is to allow unions to kind of do what they do with OSHA, which is be part of the safety mechanism. It actually makes, I was like, we could go one of two routes here. You can either expand the government and expand enforcement to monitor AI, or you can deputize somebody who has an incentive to monitor AI anyways and regulate them.
Yeah.
And my proposal is that the latter actually makes more sense, including for people who think the government is too big or it should be smaller.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. In case you've just tuned in, we are talking about the future of the workplace and the workforce in this country. We know that AI and robotics are going to dramatically change both of those entities, workplace, workforce, as we know it. Bernie Sanders, in fact, independent senator from Vermont, former presidential candidate, has called for reducing the American work week to 32 hours. There are, of course, all kinds of concerns that employers and workers alike have about what this second Trump administration will mean for labor. We'll talk about that and a great deal more with our guest. He's a professor of law at my alma mater, Indiana University. Alvin Velasquez is our guest right now on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. President Trump announced reciprocal tariffs today targeting countries that impose tariffs on U.S. goods. He said this will address long-standing unfair trade practices. Dexter Berry, a black man jailed in Florida over a Wi-Fi dispute, died after the county jail denied him his heart medication. Berry's family settled a federal lawsuit for $300,000. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office dropped its medical provider, Armor Correctional Health Services, due to deficiencies in their care. A major winter storm is spreading snow and ice from the Midwest to the Northeast with heavy snow in Chicago and Detroit. Up to 6 inches of snow is possible from Michigan to New England. And Captain America Brave New World is aiming for a huge start at the box office. The Marvel Studios film is projected to make $95 million in its first weekend in theaters through President's Day on Monday. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
If you or someone you know is affected by the Los Angeles wildfires, you are not alone. No matter how sad, scared, or heartbroken you feel, CalHope is here for you and all those affected by the devastating wildfires. Find free, safe, and confidential mental health support at calhope.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers had a rough time in Utah last night. They gave up 131 points to one of the bottom teams in the Western Conference. Utah rolled to a 131-119 victory and snapped the Lakers' 6-game winning streak. Luka Doncic, playing in his second game with the Lakers, had 16 points and 4 assists. The Lakers appeared to have the All-Star break on their minds. They missed 13 free throws. The Clippers got a strong game from Kawhi Leonard in their 128-114 win over Memphis. 25 points, 4 assists, and 3 steals in a season-high 34 minutes for Kawhi. The game of the year so far in women's college basketball has finally arrived. A lot of eyes around the country will be watching number 1 UCLA take on number 6 USC tonight at the Galen Center. More on the UCLA-USC showdown this afternoon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
I have a dream today.
The road to freedom wasn't paved with just big moments. It was built day to day, step by step, voice by voice. This February, experience Black History Month through the stories that shape Los Angeles and beyond. KBLA Talk 1580, where Black history lives.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
It's KBLA Talk 1580's third annual Black History Month luncheon, and you're invited. This is year 2 of our climate justice work, and this year's $2 million 12-month campaign is all about linking and combating the relationship between climate and black health. We already know that these wildfires will leave in their wake even greater inequities, including negative impacts on black health, given the toxic air pollutants circulating in the air we breathe. So, as part of this year's climate campaign, we're honoring black doctors and leaders in healthcare at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Friday, February 28th at noon. If you would like to join us, just go to our KBLA 1580 website and register for your chance to be our guest at the luncheon. We'd love to see you. And in case you haven't heard the news, KBLA Talk 1580 was just named one of the semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down. Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
It's not a question of if, but when. When AI and robotics will change the workforce and the workplace as we know it, trying to get at that and imagine what the future looks like with Indiana University professor of law, Alan Velasquez, who I'm honored to have on this program. We started this hour about 36 minutes ago playing a clip from Bernie Sanders, who has called for reducing the American work week down to 32 hours. Here's his argument. He argues going from 40 to 32 without, key point here, without a reduction in pay. And his belief is that Americans are working longer, there's evidence of that, for less pay despite advances in technology and productivity. Is Bernie Sanders onto something here, Professor Velasquez?
I think he is. I absolutely think he's onto something.
Tell me more.
Well, specifically, and I think the future of the workplace is changing, and I think he's getting ahead of those trends. Happy to add more to that. I'm just trying to figure out which direction you want me to go with.
No. I guess the question for me is, if AI and robotics are into the future, as we established earlier, going to change the workplace as we know it, the workforce as we know it. Help me understand the benefit, the value of reducing the American work week down to 32 hours. I think I get it. If we're going to be replaced by these instruments anyway over time, then why are we working longer hours, killing ourselves while we're making these advances?
Right. I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is that, Bernie Sanders, right, talked about the productivity gap,
right?
How much you can get done using AI. I think that's a real issue, not just for the blue-collar workforce, but also for the white-collar workforce, right? So, for example, in my field of law, lawyers are sometimes misusing AI, right, to write out papers and work faster. An industry that I could imagine being transformed is actually my other class that I teach is bankruptcy law. You could imagine that AI is being used to help, for example, lawyers who are representing low-income clients do their work faster and more efficiently, especially when they're serving clients who are really, really cash-strapped, as they would be, of course, if they were seeking bankruptcy. Yeah. So I think, what's interesting, at least, right, even in a white-collar field like mine, is that there are real efficiencies. And the real question, though, is if we take down the amount of hours we work, how does that affect pay? And the reality is that a lot of employers already, either in the gig economy or in the formal economy, look for ways to avoid putting workers on an hourly basis. The definition of being an hourly worker presumes generally that you're in a production type of industry and excludes from that definition a lot of the intellectual, like the more white-collar type of professions. In some ways, if Sanders is serious about that proposal, I'd probably think about applying that to white-collar workers as well.
Yeah. No, and obviously the key to Bernie's idea is that you go from 40 to 32 hours as the work week over a 4-year period. He isn't saying do this tomorrow, but these are the key components. You would pare down the work week over a 4-year period. And by the way, the 40-hour work week, just so you know, has stood as the standard in the U.S. since it became enshrined in federal law in 1940. So here we are as part of tradition again. Never mind all the advances we're making in technology, all the advances we're making in robotics. We have been doing this 40-hour work week thing officially since it became enshrined in federal law back in 1940. So Bernie's argument is that now is the time to start to rethink that. Let's go from 40 to 32. Let's do that over a 4-year period, but again, without a reduction in pay. Not sure the employers want to hear that. But again, if you're saving money, if these employers are saving money because of AI, if they're saving money because of robotics, then, I hear Bernie's point. We can go from 40 to 32 without a reduction in pay.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think actually, I really like how you kind of summarize his arguments, because that is exactly the trend.
Yeah.
But the real issue is, how do you capture that money? And actually, I want to glom on to a point you made,
sure,
which is that the definitions of work law, not just, people like me that talk about labor law and employment law. Employment law being individual rights, and then labor law being collective rights. Those definitions haven't fundamentally been changed since the Depression.
Yeah.
And, after the Depression. We are due in the U.S. for a serious change in work law to be done at the federal level. deal with the changing workforce. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. That's almost 100 years old now.
Yeah.
The National Labor Relations Act and the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Yeah. Speaking of federal law, there are, as I mentioned moments ago, workers and employers, for that matter, who are really wary of what Trump 2.0 is going to mean for labor. We're only 25 days in, but do you see any trends? Do you have any insights as to what these next 4 years are going to look like, specifically for labor in the Trump era?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I think that the next 4 years are going to force labor to have a real reckoning regarding what type of tactics it takes on to not just protect democracy, but to push back against a lot of what President Trump is doing. And here's what I mean. If you look at the tactics so far in resistance, a lot of it has been lawsuits and like the term lawfare gets thrown around. However, there comes a question for federal employees and their unions about whether things are so bad that they're going to need to take direct action. And what I mean by that specifically is, do they go out on strike even though technically it's illegal for them to do so? Do they go beyond lawfare to organizing, boycotts at Elon Musk's companies, by way of example? It's kind of, if you think about it, a kind of a parallel moment for labor as with the civil rights movement. And I mean it in this way, that, even though the civil rights movement won, for example, Brown v. Board, it took a lot of movement organizing for those rights and that promise to be fully met. And it seems like at this point, if Trump is going to take the position of ignoring court orders, by way of example, we don't know yet. Time will tell. It raises on the other side from labor's concerns whether they change their tactics as well.
Yep.
And I know that's a scary conversation to have, but I think that's something I want to throw out there.
Let's have a bit of it right now for the next couple of minutes. As a matter of fact, let me just tee this up, and I'll tell you where I want to go when we come forward. I'll give you a few more minutes to express yourself in this regard. Since you mentioned court orders, this has been a story that's been fluid, right? We've been back and forth on Trump and these government employee buyouts, their way of forcing people out of the government, which is different than all these cuts that they're proposing in all these various departments. And there's been this debate back and forth that Trump really can't do this because you can't start offering people buyouts that Congress hasn't approved the money for. And yet, as this thing has been kicked around in the judiciary, the federal judiciary, we learned last night that this particular federal judge, who had been back and forth on this, said last night that Trump can proceed with this government employee buyout program. So we're talking broadly in this hour about the way that AI and robotics and technology are going to change the workforce as we know it into the future. But Donald Trump ain't waiting that long. He's trying to force workers out of the federal government immediately, and now a federal judge last evening says that he can, in fact, proceed with this government employee buyout program. I think I read there are 75,000 people in various departments that have already signed up for this. We'll get Alvin Velasquez's response to that part when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening.
Charitable listening.
It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Alvin Velasquez, Indiana University professor of law. We've been discussing in this hour the way that AI and robotics are going to shift, dramatically change, in fact, our workplace and workers in the months and years to come. A conversation that we're not having with the frequency that we need to have, but that day that shall come will come, and it's on the way. We were talking. I was talking. You were talking. You initially talking about these court orders, and I was talking to a guest, I guess earlier in today's program, as I have early this week, about whether or not we are in the early stages of a constitutional crisis. That is to say, whether or not we're going to have a tete-a-tete between the executive branch and the judicial branch. And to your earlier point, we will see if Donald Trump does, in fact, respect these court orders. But this one order last night, he's happy about, and that is the federal judge who said that he can proceed with this government employee buyout. We've been back and forth on this. You're the law professor. Give me your read.
Yeah, so the first thing about that order is that it actually it allows them to proceed based on procedural grounds. And specifically, the procedural grounds is that unions are not the right parties to bring these lawsuits. And so, and that's because they lack what's called standing, the ability to bring the lawsuits and for the court to recognize it. So I want to make sure we don't take too much from that victory as a substantive victory that Trump was in the right.
Fair enough.
But rather that the people who sued did not meet an important procedural hurdle in that case. Now, that which then raises the question of, okay, at what point, what does the court battle look like? And then what does the political space look like?
Right.
And what I mean by that is, like, where's the pressure? What does the pressure from people who are not just interested in preserving the government as we know it, but rather, and more importantly, who care about the services as we know it? And the reason I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball here, but I think a place to learn some important lessons from about this kind of massive government austerity is Puerto Rico. And actually, I was very involved in the Puerto Rico bankruptcy. And one of the things that came up is in 2009, the government of Puerto Rico laid off 20,000 people at one time on an island of 3 million people. And that had two effects. Okay, the first effect is that literally the schools had to shut down because the teachers were busy cleaning up rat droppings in the schools because the janitors had been laid off, and it was just all very chaotic.
Ooh.
And then the second thing is that when people look at the macroeconomic effect of it, it actually had a huge drag on the economy, as crazy as that sounds. And so I tend to talk about Puerto Rico and what's happened down there over the years as an indication of what can happen in the U.S., right? Because they also had a Trump visit post a hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
He also withheld federal funds from there. I actually talk a little bit about that in my paper, Broken Governments and Disasters Dollars. And so we see this playbook on a small scale now happening on a big scale.
Yeah. Which leads me in my final moments with Professor Velasquez to ask what he can see in his crystal ball for laying off 75,000 plus. Because if this buyout is allowed to go forward, I suspect others will sign up for it. What does it mean when you could see layoffs or buyouts of 100,000 plus federal employees at one time, given his Puerto Rico example? We'll get his response to that in our remaining moments with him when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say, when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stopped, opt out. Individual results may vary. Consult a doctor prior to use.
You've lost so much weight. How'd you do it?
I got medical treatment for weight loss through Zelty and lost 50 pounds. I struggled for the longest time, but Zelty makes it easy and affordable to get weight loss treatment 100% online. Zelty providers can prescribe FDA-approved weight loss medications clinically shown to help people lose weight, like Wegovy, Zepbound, and others.
I've heard those medications can help you lose weight, but aren't they expensive?
Zelty can help get the medication covered by insurance, so it's as little as $0 a month.
What if you don't have insurance?
No problem. Zelty may be able to help you get other GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% off the price of name brand medications.
I'm ready to start losing weight. How do I get started with Zelty?
Just text.
Text SUNNY to 200-300 to get started today with Zelty and see if weight loss medications like Wegovy and Zepbound are right for you. Don't wait. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text SUNNY to 200-300. That's SUNNY to 200-300. SUNNY to 200-300.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
I have a dream today.
The road to freedom wasn't paved with just big moments. It was built day to day, step by step, voice by voice. This February, experience Black History Month through the stories that shape Los Angeles and beyond. KBLA Talk 1580, where Black history lives.
I started vaping my freshman year of high school, mostly because all my friends had vapes. I wanted to fit in with them and look cool and be a part of everything that they were doing. The hardest part about quitting for me was all my friends still hitting their vapes right next to me. It was really frustrating and confusing when I was trying to quit because in my head I knew I didn't want to do it anymore, but for some reason my brain still wanted it.
No quit story is the same. For free support, text Kick Nicotine to 66819 today.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
We got a few tight minutes left here with Indiana University Law Professor Alvin Velasquez as we are trying again to reimagine what the workplace and what the workforce looks like in the years to come, given the advent of AI and robotics. Bernie Sanders, I think, is the most aggressive senator in this regard, trying to get us to rethink our work week. He's arguing that we ought to go from 40 hours to 32 hours. I ain't mad about that, and I'm sure you ain't either. Let the church say amen. Amen. I got just a few minutes left. Now, let me ask you right quick, given your Puerto Rico example, what do you think the impact might be of 100,000, just making this number up? We know there's 75,000 folk already signed up for this. If it goes forward, I'm sure that others will come forward. So let's just say there are 100,000 plus federal workers who all stand down at the same time. What does that mean?
Well, it means that the kind of services that people are accustomed to in terms of Medicaid processing, the kind of things that people take for granted now get challenged. And actually, I want to give you a quick example, Tavis, from your home state of Indiana. Indiana used artificial intelligence and algorithms to make benefits decisions and deal with its state of its welfare state issues, and it was actually a really big disaster. Actually, in this book called Automating Inequality sets it out, the whole case study about what happened in Indiana. I think sometimes we might see on one side of things, government's getting smaller and it means it's more agile, or it means more money is coming back. It means, no, you're getting served by chatbots.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And that's the future we're looking at.
No. Bernie Sanders' work and this conversation, and for that matter, Alvin Velasquez's work, is really about looking at the future. 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, at the way that AI and technology, robotics, etc., will impact the workplace and the workforce as we know it. In the more immediate term, I was reading last night, Professor Velasquez, in preparation for our conversation, a piece from the Center for the American Progress, as I recall, and they put a paper out recently. I was going to say not long ago. They put a paper out that really lays out what Project 2025's goals are when it comes to American workers. And we know that while Donald Trump denied knowing anything about Project 2025 while he was running, he's embraced it wholeheartedly now that he's president. But here's what their end aim is: cut Social Security by raising the retirement age, allow employers to not have to pay overtime, undermine the right to organize and collectively bargain, weaken child labor protections, and make it easier for employers to discriminate. I've got just about 40 seconds left. I'll give it to you. What say you about these plans if embraced by Trump 2.0?
I say this is evidence of the head fake that the administration has demonstrated toward workers. On the one hand, they've put in somebody who's pro-worker at the Department of Labor. On the other hand, though, the Department of Labor is not where the most protections for workers are. They're in other things like the NLRB and some of the other laws you're talking about. And so I think people shouldn't fall for the head fake. And let me just say really quick, I got to get my disclaimer. I'm only speaking on my own behalf and not on the behalf of the university.
I get that. No problem there. I close with this. You heard Bernie Sanders say at the very top of this hour that the American worker is 400% more productive now than we were in 1955. And you got Elon Musk running around the White House in Washington saying the American worker is lazy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going with Bernie Sanders. Alvin Velasquez, I thank you for your time, sir. Good to have you on this program. All the best to you.
All right, take care.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. President Trump